Thank you, Sharon. I made a couple notes, and I think I'm going to, first of all, read my bullet points, because I think you'll find some familiar notes. First one is a little history. The second was buyer intent, invested to make money. Third one was recent attempts at self-demolition has exasperated what was a terrible eyesore before is worse now than it was. And that's not our fault, not the taxpayer's fault. Property rights, and I've got a note, with rights comes responsibility. So I'm echoing precedence, this is the fifth one, and 6 is taxpayer to improve private property, taxpayer money. So I think I've kind of hit on every one of these comments that have been said in council here, and I feel very strongly about this. That thing has been owned by 2 owners, or a succession of 2 owners, as far as I can tell from the tax record. And the only reason I'm elaborating on all of this is because you guys came up and you asked us to explain very clearly what our positions are and why we get where we get, and I'm going to do that. 1911, in fact, 11/11/11 is when that house first hit the property tax records. I'm sure it was a beautiful home back then. This is 100 years later. Nobody in the last 20 years, I've been in this town for 20 years, working and living for 15. That house was a toilet 20 years ago, if my recollection serves me. It has always been. The former owners did nothing to improve it. The current owner in 2004 bought it for $155,000 as an investment to make money. With investments comes risk. We've all been in the stock market, we've all owned real estate, and it's tanked. Well, it tanked for this poor lady, and I feel terrible for her, but we've all been there. Anybody that's owned real estate in this market and bought in 2004 and 5 has been in the same position. Their property is worth much less. That's not our fault either. That's not the city's taxpayers' fault either. And further, which really yanks me, is this is not her, but the prior owners chose not to be part of the redevelopment district. That was a choice they made. And one of the reasons, the prominent reason that people chose to stay out of it was they didn't want government interference. They didn't want the government telling them what to do. Now we have, for convenience sake, them asking the government to get involved with their property and enhance its value on the taxpayer dollar. The rights and responsibility, I mean, that's a no-brainer. You guys, you buy land, you have responsibility. It's the next thing. There's other alternatives for this homeowner, or this landowner, not a homeowner. I couldn't call it that. The equity lines, advances, bank loans, whatever. There's got to be a way that she can figure this out without us giving her something. And then when we give her something, who else is going to be next? Who's going to pop out of the woodwork next? Hey, you gave it to me. I mean, I have land. I'd love to get some landscaping in my backyard. Should I come here for $8,000 from the city? No. I just have a hard time using taxpayer money to improve private property. And back to the RDA thing. Have these people, the owners before her, opted into the RDA? And I took a 10-year running average of the values at $100,000 for 10 years outside the RDA at a 1% mill rate on $100,000. We would have gotten $200 a year. Over 10 years, that's $2,000. If it was in the RDA, we got it $6,000. Not only are we giving them $8,000, they failed by their choice not to give us $6,000. I mean, this whole thing is backwards to me. So that decision really annoys me too, because they said, you know, we could give this money to Clark County or we could give it to Mesquite. Well, they gave it to Clark County. So, and the last thing I guess is precedence. I drove from my house down to here and I passed 6, no less than 6 buildings or residences that are abandoned and in disrepair. Not the least of which is right next to us here, next door to the Panda Garden. Harley's Garage. John's Diesel's not a very good looking building. It's a thriving business, but maybe we should shut him down and demo it because it doesn't look good. Once again, we're appealing to the sensibilities of a few by this vague definition of nuisance, is it? That's what this is a nuisance? It's a vague definition. Read it. It basically doesn't give you any clarity whatsoever. So that's open to interpretation. So the bottom line is I cannot support this as a lien. I cannot support this as giving cash. I cannot support it in any form whatsoever.
Councilman Hayden.
Well, I think it's been said. I concur with what the public said. I concur with what Councilman Rapson said. You know, we continue to manipulate the RDA guidelines, and you know, originally these people didn't have any money. They found $8,000. I think where there's a will, there's a way. I mean, I think we'd all like to see that building removed. But I think it's all been said. I mean, we're not a bank. We're not in the loan business. When we get in the loan business, we know what happens. We're still holding the one out there for $2.5 million. Sure, this is only $8,000, but it gets back to this is taxpayer dollars. They're not in the RDA. That's the purpose of RDA. It is what it is, and I concur with what's been said.